Hello, my name is Dr. Caragh Stapleton. I'm a statistician at the Central Statistics Office, and I'm here today to talk about the main results of our recent Growing Up in Ireland Cohort 98 at age 25 survey. Growing Up in Ireland is Ireland's national longitudinal study of children and young people. In Growing Up in Ireland, a cohort of children and young people are surveyed every few years to update us on their lives as they progress through various stages in life. The cohort discussed in this presentation are called Cohort 98, as they were born in 1998, and it is at age 25, as they were surveyed in 2023 when they were that age. This is the first time in Growing Up in Ireland that a cohort has been surveyed by themselves, without questionnaires being asked of their family members or to schools. This gives us a unique opportunity to develop insights into the lives of this cohort of young people as they establish themselves in adulthood. This is the fifth time this cohort has been surveyed. They were first surveyed in 2007 when they were 9 years old, and last surveyed in 2018 when they were 20 years old. The Cohort 98 at age 25 survey covers a broad range of topics relevant to the lives of people in their 20s in Ireland today. It attempts to capture the experience of this group of adults, now aged 25, as they navigate through life in Ireland. Topics this cohort was asked include work, education, income, cost of living, housing, familial and romantic relationships, health and well-being, and attitudes to society and the world around them. They were also asked whether or not they'd experienced discrimination, if they provided care for a family member, and about potentially risky behaviours such as drug use or alcohol consumption. This presentation will go through a few highlights and some of our main results. For further information, please consult the main publication page, cso.ie, the CSO website. The Growing Up in Ireland Cohort 98 at age 25 survey ran from April 23 to April 2024. In addition to survey data, many of the findings derive from administrative data available on this cohort. An important finding is that during fieldwork, over 1 in 8 of our cohort, or 12.7%, told us that they had immigrated. For these individuals, a short separate survey on immigration was carried out. This presentation will deal with the findings from the survey for those living in Ireland only. Information on the immigration survey can be found on the annex to the publication, also found on the CSO. By the time individuals had reached their mid-20s, most will have completed their formal education. Survey and administrative data tells us that nearly 3 in 5, or 59.5% of this cohort, had received at least a level 7 qualification in the National Framework of Qualifications, or NFQ, equivalent to an ordinary degree, by the end of the 2021-2022 academic year. Over 1 in 10, or 11.3%, had received an NFQ level 9 or higher qualification, equivalent to a master's degree. Nearly 1/3, or 29.9%, had a highest level of education of NFQ level 5, or equivalent to the Leaving Certificate, and just over 1 in 20, or 5.9%, had obtained qualifications no higher than NFQ level 4, pre-Leaving Certificate and certain technical and vocational qualifications. Educational attainment has a strong relationship with earnings, even just a few years after leaving higher education. In 2022, a year before the survey, and when the cohort was 24, a respondent in employment was earning a median of €557 a week. However, it was €612 a week for those respondents who had at least an NFQ level 7 qualification degree level, while those without such a qualification made €484 a week, a difference of €128 per week. This effect was particularly pronounced among women, with women with a higher qualification earning €598 per week, while those without such a qualification earned €442 a week, a gap of €156 per week. A smaller yet significant gap of €83 a week was noted for men. There was already a noticeable difference between men and women's earnings, with men making a median of €585 a week and women making a median of €526 a week, a gap of €59 per week. In our survey, our group of 25-year-olds were asked how easy or difficult they found it to make ends meet. Over 1/3 of our group, or 34.2%, said they had at least some difficulty making ends meet, while over 1 in 20, 5.1%, said that they had great difficulty making ends meet. Individuals who said they were principally in employment found it easier to make ends meet, with less than 3 in 10, or 29.4%, having at least said that they had any difficulty making ends meet. In contrast, of those who stated they were not principally in employment, either in education or in unemployment or not in employment, education or training, over half, 55.6%, stated they had some difficulty making ends meet. Of those who were principally not in employment, 15.5% said they had great difficulty making ends meet, contrasting with just 2.8% who said that they were principally in employment. Our 25-year-olds were also asked if they lived with their parents, and if they did, why they continued to do so. Over 3 in 5 of those who lived with their parents, 62.4%, said that they did so for mostly financial reasons, with nearly a quarter, or 22.9%, stated that it was a little bit to do with finances. When asked about their social concerns for Ireland today, 85.8% said that they were very concerned about access to housing in Ireland. Meanwhile, of those living independently, either by being a homeowner or living outside the parental home, nearly 3 in 5, or 58%, stated that they rented from a private landlord. 11% stated that they lived in an arrangement free of rent. 8% stated that they rented from a family member, and 11% had other or unknown arrangements. Less than 1/8 of those living independently said that they were owner-occupiers of their own home, 12%. And once taking into consideration those who stated that they were living with their parents, less than 1 in 20 respondents, or 3.8% in total, stated that they owned their own home at the time of the survey. In the survey of 25-year-olds, they were asked whether or not they agreed with the statement, "I am optimistic about the future." A majority of respondents, or 56.5%, agreed or strongly agreed with the statement that they were optimistic about the future. Just over 1 in 10, or 10.7%, disagreed with the statement, with 14.3% not giving an answer. Men and women were about as likely to agree or disagree with the statement. When asked about satisfaction with their lives, our 25-year-olds were mostly satisfied with their life. On a scale of 0 to 10, on average, our cohort gave their lives a score of 6.5. I will now finish up by displaying the infographic for the publication, which displays some of the data discussed in this presentation and other data that's discussed in more depth in our online publication. For more information on this publication, including the rest of the reports, many interesting findings, as well as graphics, charts, and text, can be found on the CSO website, cso.ie. This publication is the first in a series of publications of Growing Up in Ireland Cohort 98 at age 25, with the next a more detailed look into work, education, and income of this cohort due later this year. Thank you.